Welcome back to Retail Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Athan, and this is the show where we speak to Depop sellers and people in the fashion resale industry to give you some insight and the ideas you need to implement and grow in your own shop. Today I'm speaking to George from George's Garms, and he's one of the sellers who had the foresight right from the beginning to speak to other top sellers, people that were years ahead of him, to pick up bits of advice and tips that he could apply to his own shop. And he credits them for how he's managed to rack up over 1,000 sales now. He gets a lot of people messaging him, and so in turn he helps them, which is the reason that he wants to come on this podcast, to share the journey he's been on, the experiences he's had, and hopefully pass on some insight for the next generation of sellers. Even the people that have a similar number of sales or maybe even more experience than George has, you know, he and I are running similar size shops. There's still a lot of things he said, his perspective on how things should be done, that I've taken and I'm now applying to my own shop. Very valuable conversation, very interesting one. Thank you, George, for coming on. As always, if you're watching this on the YouTube, then make sure you leave a comment, let us know what you thought. I read every single comment. I'm always picking up things from you guys about you like this or you didn't like that, or maybe you should try this. And bit by bit, we're improving these videos, we're making this content better, and we're finding more and more ways to add value to you. Without saying anything more, enjoy the episode. We probably started talking like 2 months ago-ish. And I saw on your page that you were celebrating 1,000 sales. Yes. So I know that in 7 months you've gone from 500 to 1,000, but now in 2 months you've gone from 1,000 to almost 1,500. So I don't know what the fuck you've been doing the last 2 months. You can share some secrets with me, George.
Oh, secrets. I guess it's keeping stocks up. You know, I think it's knowing what your customers want, but also not being afraid to try something new. You know, it may be like, say I sell only Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren items. Why not push the boat out and get, you know, a brand that I've never tried before? And there might be a big market for that. So what I've been trying to do is stick with the stuff I know, but also try and take small risks. So try and get maybe a couple of brands here and there, or maybe some trousers or like shoes, like some new stuff, mix it up. Because if you ignore that, you know, you're ignoring a whole demographic of customers. Mm-hmm. You know, if you stick to one brand or one item, if you only sell sweatshirts, anyone who wants a t-shirt isn't going to come to you. So I think it's important to stock everything, really. Stock as much as you can, as varied as you can, but still know what you're doing.
See, that it's interesting you say that, actually, because I put up a post on my Instagram. It's the most recent one, and it sparked a lot of debate. See, in my opinion, the way I approach things is I like to have a maximum of 3 or 4 brands on my shop. And what I do is I focus on something very specific. So, you know, Kenzo, for example, they got these big tiger embroidered jumpers, right? I like to only sell them because then I learn exactly what colors, what sizes and what styles specifically for that item I can flip. So I can really rely on that one piece. I do that for about 3 or 4 different kinds of items. And then I never go to 5. I just replace the old item. So whichever one's making me the least money or isn't selling, I get rid of that one. Say the Kenzos aren't cutting it anymore. Get rid of the Kenzos, replace them with a very specific type of Stone Island jumper, for example. The argument the other way is what you were saying about, instead of going so specific, to have as many items as possible to reach as many people as possible. Where do you kind of lie on that spectrum?
I would say bang in the middle of both of our our ways of doing it. I would say absolutely your one. So as I said, I sell a lot of Hilfiger. I sell a lot of, you know, USA Pro Sports because that's what I know. I know they're going to be good sellers. I know they're going to fly off. But at the same time, I don't like to just rely on those because, as I said, I would be ignoring anyone then who doesn't like Hilfiger and Pro Sports. So I think a good mix of your way and my way, you know, keep the stuff you know is going to do well when you like and you want to promote, but then also be a little bit different, you know, just push it out not too far that you're uncomfortable with the stuff you're selling, but maybe just a new brand similar to something you're selling. So yeah, I'd say right in the middle of both is probably where I'd like to aim to be.
That makes sense, to kind of have your core items, but make sure there's always a 20, 30, who knows, percent, maybe more, maybe less, depending on what kind of shop you want to run. That's doing something a bit different, trying something new. And to be fair, I agree with that because I just started buying some trainers the other day, tested a couple. I got some Disney sweatshirts coming through from Wholesale. So you're right, you need that extra bit where you're kind of playing around with it, because otherwise you're just going to get stuck in the same place, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. As you said, with like Disney, that's a brand I've been trying now. I got about 3 or 4 in just as a trial, and they went within the same week. So that's now something I know that I can take Disney on board now, and I know that's going to be a good seller. So it's just sort of implementing a new thing. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But as you said, you can just get rid of that then and carry on with what does work.
Exactly.
But Disney's a very good example of that. It's something I never stocked, but then I did. And now it's probably one of the pieces I'm looking for most because I know it's going to go.
Yeah, well, if you need any jumpers, I got 50 downstairs. So I'll put you up, man.
Plug-in.
Yeah, but that's made me think, actually, you're right. If you go too far the other way, that's what I did this month. So in December, I scrapped all the stuff I knew worked. I had a good month, made about 2K profit. So I was like, right, I know I can make X amount of money off that now. I'm going to stop all that, try something completely new. Because I'm kind of thinking about creating content for people and experimenting, you know. But what it meant was I took a gamble with Wholesale. It paid off a bit. I learned some things, but by and large, it was nowhere near as successful as the model I've been building for the last 2 years. Yeah. So my profits have dropped to 500 this month. I'll be lucky if I make 1,000. And it's because I went too far the other way. Instead of keeping that core and experimenting a bit, I experimented with everything and I kind of lost that rhythm I was having, you know? So I think you're right. You need the balance between the two.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So why did you get started on Depop?
So it was probably about 2 years back now when I started uni. I suddenly had this big loan come in and I thought, what should I do with it? You know, it's just going to sit there. I can treat myself to some clothes, a car, whatever. And I went on eBay and I wasn't into clothes much when I started. And I thought, well, you know, I'm going to bid 99p on some joggers on eBay. So I used to bid like a couple of quid on Nike joggers on eBay. Maybe one or two of them I'd win and I'd go on Depop, which was sort of in its infancy a couple of years back. It wasn't as big as it is now. And I would flip them for like 20 quid same day. And I thought, well, this is quite easy. It's not too taxing, you know, I'm doing it from home, you know, sort of as I want to do it. And I guess it just took off from there. I sort of invested, I took about £1,000 out of my loan and I just said, right, I'm going to go buy stuff and I'm going to see what I can return. And it was only like a £200 profit on the lot. But then I took that 1,200, turned it into 2, took that 2, turned into 4. And then a couple of years down the line, that's still what I'm doing, just on a much bigger scale.
So. Yeah. So how much are you playing with now, do you reckon? Like total amount you've amassed?
In terms of profit?
In terms of money. So like, you know, I'm playing with about £4,000 because I think one of the things that I've always found difficult is sometimes you see sellers with such big stores that it makes you think that your one sale a day is not comparable to their 20 sales a day. But you got to remember, like some people are literally playing with 30, 40 grand now because they managed to stack up so much money. So what kind of scale is your shop?
I would say in terms of stuff I've got currently, waiting for sale, it's probably about 6 or 7k in stock at the moment. But I know that I could spend £500 a week easy on stock. No doubt. But if I'm not selling £500 worth of stock, I don't want to do that. I want to keep it, as you sort of said, spend a little, make a lot if you can, not the other way around. So what I spend and what I sell are equivalent, if that sort of makes sense. So if I'm only selling one item a week, I won't be buying that week because I haven't got the income to buy.
Yeah, completely.
So, but if I'm selling 100 items a week, I will go out and immediately replenish that stock.
Yeah, I think it's important to get the money flowing quickly. Like once you've had a good week for sales, to not just sit back and relax, but take advantage of that, shift all that money into new stock, get cash flowing as quickly as possible. You know, the last month I did where I made that 2K, there was probably like an item that I bought at the beginning that by the end of the month had been sold and bought like a good 4 times, which is why we made so much money because the cash was flowing really quickly, you know?
Yeah, like as you said, you could spend 100 grand on stock this month easy, but if you haven't got the audience, you're going to sell none of it, and you're just going to be left with this amount. So it's important to buy in, and then sort of buy in what you can sell, and not overdo it and not underdo it. It's quite important to find that balance.
Have you ever thought about taking a loan out, or are you trying to grow organically?
I was having this chat with someone yesterday. He said he uses the PayPal loan, so he takes out about £1,000. I think you pay back like £50 interest or whatever it is. And I said, but do you need that? And he was sort of saying, No, but it's nice to have it in a lump rather than getting it over the sort of the month. But personally, I don't like owing people. I don't like sort of being in debt to people or paying back with interest. So it's not something I've been looking at. No.
Fair enough. Yeah,
I can
I've been
understand
looking
why
at
they
that
would.
exact PayPal one because it's quite convenient. It's already linked up with your account, and they take it out of your future sales, so you don't have to pay back some lump sum. They just slowly knock off, instead of that 3.4%, they just take like 3.6% or something.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but I just think that it kind of what you were saying before. If you've got $4,000 in there and you're thinking, oh, that's not enough money. Well, if you're only selling one item a day, that means that the $4,000 you're playing with isn't making you enough sales. So having $8,000 suddenly isn't going to fix that problem. You need to work out, why have I got £4,000 and I'm only making one sale a day? And when you fix that problem and you're making 10 sales a day, you don't need a loan anymore, because now you're getting so much money flowing through that you can just spend that. You just see what I'm saying? So I don't think there's many circumstances where you need an extra grand or an extra $2,000. If you're going big and you're like, right, I'm running a 40K business and I want to expand that to an 80K business, I mean, that's not my remit, but then maybe that would be an acceptable circumstance.
Yeah.
But if you're a Depop seller, if you're not making enough money through your sales to support you buying new stock, a loan ain't going to fix that problem, because it's not going to make you more sales.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I know a lot of people who have gone out and they've spent $1,000 with wholesalers, and it's there and they've just opened. You know, they've got no followers, they've got no sales, but they've just got this, even though it's premium A branded stock, and they just won't sell it because they've jumped straight into the deep end. They've spent all their money and they haven't built up a foundation, which is probably the most important thing. Is it's going to take a few years to get good at this, you know, learn the ins and outs, get a good market, get a good sort of following. And I think a lot of people don't understand that either. You know, it's not a job you can just jump into. You know, I've been working, this has been 2 years, full-time job now. And I'm only just breaking, 1,500 sales. So it's not something you can just buy stock, start straight away. You have to build up the foundations. And to apply that to a loan, you could take the loan, but if you haven't got the reason for it and you haven't got the foundations to back it up, I don't think it would be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is something that you can start very easily. Because if you only have 200 quid or you have no money and you just want to sell some stuff in your wardrobe, you can quite quickly rack up those first sales. But I think you're right. Like, getting into the rhythm where you're making consistent high sales every week, that does take a lot of time. Or, I mean, it takes a lot of time for a normal person. If you're putting in a normal amount of work, most people start as a side hustle, so a couple hours at the end of the day. It's going to take a couple of years to get there. It may be if you're doing it 18 hours a day, it's a different story. But for most people, I think, it does take at least a year to get into a bit of a rhythm of making sales. There's so many things that you can hear in podcasts and people explaining stuff, but you just won't get for yourself until you're running your own shop and making your own sales. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask anyway, so, we were just talking about, in fact, let me cut it so I can record it. So we was just talking about people when they're first starting out, right? And it takes that time to get to that 1 year mark where you've got a bit of confidence in it now. What advice would you give that person who's going through that initial stage where you and I both know, you're making 1 or 2 sales a week, you've got 100 items up and only a couple are selling? What would you say to them?
I would say talk to other sellers and get their knowledge. I think genuinely the only reason I'm here is because I know and I've befriended a bunch of verified sellers who would all give me a little bit of advice, So if we take, for example, the business side, registering as a business, your taxes, your customs, all of that, there was one seller in particular who helped me. He talked me right through that. Without him, I wouldn't have had that. And it even goes back to when I started, someone would say, oh, buy a tripod, it'll help your photos be more consistent. Or, why not a white background instead of a black background? It's just little things like that you can pick up from other sellers. If you're doing it all on your own, you could have a chance at that, but talk to the people that have been there, done that, who are already verified, making full-time wages, because they're the ones that know what they're doing. That they're the ones who can help you out. So I think it's contacts and getting to know the community is a major part. So like, I get people message me all the time saying, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I'll tell them because I needed that help when I started. And I think that's easily the most important thing is talk to people that know what they're doing, and they'll help you and sort of guide you along.
That's good advice. People are so willing to help as well because, you know, we started this podcast 2 weeks ago. And we've already like 15 guests lined up for it. Pretty much everyone says yes.
Yeah.
Or next month I'm just busy for Christmas. Like there's very, very few people that aren't interested in helping other people, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's just the community we're in. There's a clear understanding that you could have 5,000 sales and it's still such a tiny part of people. There's still so many other people that could help you. So by helping other people and just creating this space where we all share information, we'll all get a lot better at it, you know. Depop's young. It's been around 5 years.
It is young, yeah. Compared to like, you know, eBay, you know, you get professional eBay people that know the ins and outs. They know exactly what categories to put. They know exactly what categories you don't want to select. But that's because eBay's been around for 10, 15 years. You know, it's a much bigger platform. And as you said, Depop is in its infancy still. 5 years is nothing for a website, really. So, yeah, I agree. I think this sort of podcast, listening to this, you know, even though I might not give, you know, the secrets away that people want, they might think, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll take that on board, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, the secrets people want are who is your supplier and how do I make loads of money this month? And the thing is, there's no information that you or I could say that is going to help you grow your shop exponentially. What is going to help you is you just doing it. And then on the sides, listen to a bit of this, talk to a couple sellers, just get that information because in a year's time, you'll be in a good position to actually do something with it. But look, I could tell you exactly what I do for my shop, word for word. I could write the business plan out and hand it over, and it would be of no use to 99% of people. Because it's not about that. It's about the 2-3 years I've had doing it. That means that I have confidence that I can make X amount of money. Do you know what I mean? And for people that have been doing it 5 years or longer, they have even more confidence. I was talking to System F. He's racked up 10,000 sales. He could give you his suppliers. He could give you his business model. He could talk you through word for word what he does, and it would not be of any use to you, man.
Yeah.
A little bit of insight, and you'd still be in the same position pretty much.
I think you said something important there is everyone has a different business model, and that's completely true. So I know System F sells mainly dead stock. I think I'm thinking of the right guy.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've got Callum from Callum's Cupboard. He sells only dead stock Nike. You've got Jack from Liquid Garms. He sells only from charity shops. You know, everyone does something different. And it's until you find the thing that works for you, you know, that's what's going to help you. So I'm sure my business model and your business model, from what we said earlier, are completely different, but we're both in the same place. We're both, you know, making the sales, earning enough. So I think it's important that these new people need to find what works for them. If they don't like going to charity shops, try and find a dead stock supplier somewhere. If they can't, or the other way around, if they don't like that, they should go to charity shops. You know, it's just finding the thing that works for them.
Yeah, completely. And interestingly, like we sell similar-ish stuff. You know, a couple of Tommy pieces. I've got a little bit of Polo. You got a bit of Nike. Like we're not completely opposite sides of the market. And even then, there's only so much we could do to help each other. We can talk and give bits of advice, but we're running 2 different businesses. Yeah. And me knowing exactly what you're going to do is only going to give me 1 or 2 tips for me to apply to my own shop. You know, it is about working out for yourself. I'm going to do the work, and what results do I get at the end of that work, and what is my business going to look like?
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a good example of this. I have a friend who sells called Todd, and I told him word for word exactly what I did, and he did it as well. So we ended up, you know, sharing the same sort of stock. But now he's branched away into something that works more for him. He's looking at, you know, getting Burberry from Thailand, that sort of thing. And that's because that's what works for him. That's not something I do. But even though we started in the same place and for a few months we did exactly the same thing, he's now branched out and found that niche that works for him. And that's when he sort of started getting the sales up rather than just copying what I did.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect example for it. So when you source your stuff, I know you do hand picking. Is that hand picking from wholesalers, garage sales? What's your approach?
If there's any way to get something, I will do it. So I will buy from Depop, I buy from eBay, Vinted, Facebook, Instagram, but then I'll also drive 2.5 hours to a wholesaler to handpick. I'll also, you know, go to charity shops and car boots. I think you have to have a mix of everything, because if you don't go to charity shops, one week they might have, you know, a Nike ACG or an Adidas equipment, and you're missing out on that.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you only rely on wholesalers, one week you'll make a 2.5 hour drive and they'll be picked clean and you're in trouble for the week. So I think it's important to just get something from everywhere if you can.
Do you do any wholesale, or is it all handpicking for you?
All handpicked. I've never ordered blind. I ordered blind when I first started because that's what it's made out to be like when you start. You know, you see all these Instagram wholesalers with all this stuff, and it's just not that. But I ordered blind. I lost about £1,000, and I thought never again. And since then, I haven't. I know exactly what I'm getting every single time, and that's what's helped me. Is I know what's coming in. I can then promote that before it's even arrived. If that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting like a 10-piece Adidas bundle, I know exactly what the 10 pieces are, and I know, hey, this customer's going to like this piece, you know, and I can sell it before it even gets here.
And it's all just about preference, you know. There are some people that are happy to order those big 50-piece boxes, not knowing what they're going to get, because it's so much cheaper. For me personally, I mean, I can make a decent amount of money off them, but I just don't like that in a box of 50, I'm not going to like 45 of them.
Yeah.
And my shop's just about making money, not about something that looks nice and is presentable and full of clothes that I might actually wear. I can borrow that piece for a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just preference. If you're just chasing the money, the way we're doing it is probably not the best way to do it. But if you are just chasing the money, you're probably not going to stick it out for the 2 to 3 years it requires to be making good money of it, you know?
Yeah, it's our job is definitely, you know, money is a huge aspect, but it's also personal preference. You know, people build their shops around them and what they look like and what they wear. And if you're just ordering 100 pieces for the sake of it and you don't enjoy any of it, there's not that individual element in your store. You know, you're just buying it for the sake of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think those people are gonna lack. You know, they've got no personality. They're just buying it for sort of the sake of it.
Yeah, I think it's a very short-term approach, in my opinion. It is just an opinion of just one person, but I think that let me just do what is going to make me the most money doesn't take into account, like, someone's got to photograph all of that stuff. Someone's got to store it all. Someone's got to package it all. Someone's got to clean it all. And that person is probably you. So if you are motivated enough that you can get down and do that work, even though you don't like the work that you're actually doing, because you don't like the clothes, but you're happy because you're making good money, then fine. But for me personally, it just gets hella boring.
Yeah.
Photographing shit that I'm just trying to make money off of and I have no personal interest in. But I could take photographs of Stone Island jumpers all day because I love, they're so plain and simple, but I love Stone Island jumpers. So every one of the photos just look clean. There's a sense of personal pride. You know what I mean? That keeps me going. I couldn't do the same with Umbro joggers, even if I made twice the money off them.
That's the thing. I agree completely with what you said. Like, I would rather have like a little personal wardrobe, 10, 20 pieces. I could go out, model, get photographs sort of professionally and enjoy it, rather than just, I've got 50 joggers here. They need to be up and done by tonight. And as soon as my job hit that, so when I was ordering blind, as soon as it was, we've got 100 items here, let's just get them up, I made a change because I knew I could not stick that out. Like, I couldn't just keep, it was more of a grind than sort of enjoyment. And I think that's the turning point, is if you're doing it for just money, there's no enjoyment in it. Completely. You're probably not in the right business.
Completely. And where that translates is, you know, looking at your Instagram, you can tell a lot about you before I've met you, because it's clearly reflective of you and the stuff that you like. How do you think you've built such a engaged community on Instagram? Because, you know, the ratio between the amount of comments and people talking you have and the 2.5k followers is really high. People are properly interested in what you do.
I think numbers can be deceiving sometimes. So you can have 100,000 followers, but how many of them actually engage with you is the thing. So every time I make a sale, I'll say to them, look, hey, thank you for buying. You know, why don't you go follow me on here? You know, I might have something in a week that you can see before that. So even though I only have 2.5k, that's 2.5k that engage with me. You know, that they're people that buy from me. They're personal to me. They're my own customers. They're my own, you know, friends, sellers that I'm friends with, rather than just let's get as many followers as we can for vanity. I'd rather keep it small but personal. I think that's a good sort of structure to have.
Yeah, I got you, man. I think a lot of the numbers are very misleading, you know, like when we first started out, it was all about what gets us the most likes. Because naturally we thought likes equals engagement, engagement equals more reach, etc., etc. But I kind of realized like the most important thing is that you're putting out content that is valuable to other people. And whether or not that makes them double tap the screen is kind of irrelevant, because just because they didn't, I don't really double tap anything on Instagram, but it doesn't mean people aren't adding value and there aren't people I'm interested in. My thumb just doesn't press the screen twice. So using that as a measure for how well you're doing is off. And I think Depop sellers like yourself, like Callum, like Jack, not because they don't get loads of likes, but because they've got small followings for Instagram, 5,000. But for a Depop community, having 5,000 people that are interested in what you do, all you need, man. The people talking in those comments, they care about what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? They're not just, oh, nice jumper. Like, they're speaking to these sellers. They have a real relationship with them. I think it's super important for a small seller.
Absolutely. So if we take my mate Jay, so Threads by Jay, he doesn't have a big Instagram, you know, and he won't mind me saying that. He's got about 1,500 followers or so, and he'll get, you know, 10, 15 likes a post. And you might look at that and say, wow, his engagement's awful. But those 10, 15 people are making a bid on that item that he's just posted. You know, I think that's, he won't mind me saying that at all. But even though you have a low reach, if that reach is people that are engaging with you, you know, that's much better than having 100,000 people who don't care. Yeah. And I stand by that completely. I'd rather have 2.5K that engage with me than 100K who don't.
Yeah, completely, man. Completely. I think that the way I think about it is the data, likes, engagement, all that sort of stuff gives you a bit of an indication, right? That got more likes. Why? Beyond that bit of a suggestion, that's all it means. If that video got twice as many views, have a think about why it got twice as many views. It doesn't mean it was twice as good.
Yeah.
It's just an indication there was something that kind of worked about that one. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. For example, we put up a post of Nick with a baby on his shoulders. It's our most liked post. So our most liked post gets a baby. People like babies. I'm not going to now make all my posts about babies, but it taught me that people like to see the personal side of things every now and then. So I'll weave that in, a picture of me, you know what I mean, of a dog or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that now let's put all our photos out, let's make them all about babies and get more likes. Do you know what I mean? It's not as black and white.
Because if you did that, for example, you would start attracting the audience that like babies or dogs and not the people that like your clothes. And that's a very important point is, I can put a photo up of, I can do 1 million photos of Nike pieces and only attract a Nike audience. Whereas there's 1 million other brands out there, you know, and that sort of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where if you focus on one or two things, you're excluding, you know, so many other people, so many customers. So it sort of, as I said, goes back to what I'm saying. It's important to have a range of everything, but also know what's going to do well, but don't just stick to that.
Yeah. Good advice, man. Good advice. Any closing comments for Depop sellers listening? They've seen your page. They love what you do on the Instagram, on the Depop. They like the style you sell. They've got 2 or 3 sales and they don't know what they're doing. What's the message they need to hear?
I'd honestly just stay positive. I know it's sort of a cliche, but stay humble. Like, there's never been a moment where I've taken it for granted. You know, I'm very appreciative for my customers, for what I've done. And I think that sort of shows through. You know, I'm happy to message my customers after every 2 weeks and say, look, thank you for buying, you know, how's it going? Is everything all right? And I know that it's that extra work. It's, you know, really connecting with people that sort of will help sort of push you forward rather than just, here's 100,000 sales or, you know, 100,000 people. Let's not engage with them. You know, I think it's important to just stay humble, know that you're only a small business and make the most out of every customer and opportunity.
Yeah, completely. That's the advantage you have over these 100K vintage sellers because they can't speak to every single customer. Yeah. Whereas I can DM every person that comments, have a proper long conversation and get to know them, which means that in their 100K, maybe they've got 1,000 people that really care about what they're doing. But in our 3,000, we can have 3,000 people that care about what we're doing. And then 100K becomes irrelevant.
Absolutely. I think it's been what we've said all along, you know, just I'd rather be small but well known, you know, and sort of close than big and well known and just you know, no contact, no sort of personal relationships or anything.
So what did I learn from speaking to George? He, like me, is running a pretty similar size shop and even selling in relatively similar brands. And he's taken an approach that is somewhat like ours in that he's picked a quite specific niche. He focuses on some very specific items. But unlike us, he doesn't like to be just relying on them. He's trying to cast a slightly wider net with having a percentage of his items that aren't in that Tommy, Polo, Ralph Lauren niche that he's used to, kind of branches out a bit, and he uses that to experiment, find new brands that he can sell in and new opportunities that he's not taken advantage of yet, which I think is a very fair point. Also, the biggest thing I got from George, which is kind of fundamental to everything we do at Hustle, is that he has really understood that there is no lack of opportunity on Depop and in the fashion resale market. Even the biggest people in our industry are only so big in comparison to how many people there are out there and how much bigger reselling is about to get over the next 5-10 years. So George has no problem sharing that information with other people, getting involved, and in turn learning things from others. That's what Hustle is all about. We 100% believe in abundance. There is plenty of information out there. There's plenty of opportunity out there. There's no need for us to hide our secrets and keep things from each other, because I genuinely believe that together the resale community is a lot stronger than us all trying to compete against each other and not sharing the things that we know. That's the biggest thing I picked up from George. I'm really glad he came on the show. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did too. Remember, if you're watching this on the YouTube, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. Tell us what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, what you want to see more of, any little bit of information that you want to share, any comment that you have about the video, because we read everyone, we take it on board, and it's the reason that we're improving our content and getting more and more stuff out for you guys. Thank you for coming on. Keep hustling.